concerned as ever because we are at a crucial turning point, a historic fork in the road for this conflict. It is a time of maximum danger, but also massive opportunity.
Can I tell you where I agree with him? And that is the turning point. I think Washington is beginning to recognize they made a catastrophic mistake in sending military equipment to Ukraine, and they're beginning to lay the public relations groundwork for washing their hands of the whole thing. I think the generals have said there's no way Putin loses. You guys have to start laying the groundwork for getting the hell out. I think that's what Blumenthal is hinting at.
No, he's not at all. He said the Russians are on the verge of major counteroffensive will be as barbaric and humane as all of what they have done. Hey, Blumenthal, how about barbaric and humane for what the United States did on Iraq? Hey, Blumenthal, how about barbaric and humane for what America did in Afghanistan? Hey, Blumenthal, how about America supporting the Yemen war, of which 377,000 people died, according to the UN? Half of them, according to the UN, children under 5. How about that barbaric? Hey, how about the barbaric of what Israel is doing to the Palestinians? Only killed 30 of them this year. Oh, I'm Blumenthal. Oh, you're an anti-Semite. Yeah, F you, I'm not. You are a little freak, because here's where he keeps going. You ready? The opportunities for America to deter and defeat that counteroffensive by the Russians and enable a Ukraine to win. I repeat, win. That is the only acceptable alternative.
Well, he's out of his mind. There is no way on the planet that Ukraine can have to meet. Depends on how you define win. If win means get the Russians out of Ukraine and get Crimea back, will never happen. If win means just stop fighting where we are now, that's a victory for Russia, because he's taken all the Russian-speaking areas, all that area that was part of Ukraine, part of Russia going back to 300 years. That's not a win. It's a win in that there's no more fighting. But in terms of who's achieved their objective, it would be Russia. I'm not sure that Blumenthal, military historian that he is, knows what the hell he's talking about.
He's an arrogant nothing. He's an arrogant nothing. Here.
But these arrogant nothings have the power.
I know.
These are two U.S. senators, a liberal Democrat and a conservative Republican. And for better or for worse, they represent the consensus in the United States Congress today. These people are more warmongering than Joe Biden is.
Here. You ready? He keeps going. The opportunities for America to deter defeat, like I said, to the people of America today, he's speaking for us now. It is today, for the people of America, today it is Ukraine. You ready? But tomorrow it will be us if we do not stop Putin. Because Putin will keep rolling and attack NATO nations, which will obligate the United States to be involved with our troops.
Gerald,
that's coming out of the crap spewing out of that arrogant guy's mouth. And these are the people that are running our country.
The last thing Putin wants is a war with NATO. Putin will never attack NATO.
I know.
It's NATO that has moved 800 miles to the east. It's NATO that violated the agreement we would never go east when Jim Baker persuaded Gorbachev to let Eastern Europe go. It's Putin who's been wronged by what NATO has done. It's NATO that has instigated all of this. It's also NATO that stinks. It has no ideology other than we'll do what Washington tells us. Am I right?
100%. And there should be no NATO.
Of course not.
You should not be involved in it.
It's interesting. We've had one president since World War II who said we should get the hell out of NATO. Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And of course, the establishment laughed at him when he said that. Look, he did and said a lot of crazy things. In this, he was correct. We have no business being there.
No.
Europe can defend itself. Putin is not a threat to NATO.
And again, they keep selling this domino theory. And again, as you said, he's no threat to NATO. And as George Washington said, do not get involved in any foreign entanglements, particularly what's going on in Europe, because these conflicts have been going on for centuries.
Right. Right.
You know, this isn't our business. We're Americans.
Correct.
And again, you're saying that, you know, they're going to start pulling back in the United States. You know, what people don't get is that since the end of World War II, all of America's wars have been from little countries that thought they could defeat, like Vietnam, which they lost, like Iraq, which they lost.
You're right.
Like Afghanistan, which they lost.
Right. Pick a war against somebody who, pick a war you can afford to lose.
Yeah.
Pick a war against somebody which, when you lose, there'll be no consequence. Well, if loss is no consequence, then there was no moral purpose to the war. There was no moral purpose to the Vietnam War. There was no moral purpose to invading Iraq. There's no moral purpose to invading Iran. There's no moral purpose to 900 military installations around the world. There's no moral purpose to Joe Biden ordering the Chancellor of Germany to send their tanks to Ukraine because, according to Colonel McGregor, the German tanks are better than ours.
And
can't make this up.
And again, the Russians aren't, you know, Muammar Gaddafi, who they could overthrow. They're not. Right. They're not. This is Russia. You're not going to defeat them. What did they killed over 20 million. Germans killed over 20 million of them in Operation Barbarossa, World War II. And they were the first ones to defeat the Germans.
Correct.
So, I mean, America's not fighting, you know, Libya anymore or Vietnam or Iraq. This is really, they're not going to win. But they're keeping it going.
You have been warning, and I think, I'm not saying this because I'm your friend, but it's true, that yours was the first voice almost a year ago to say this is World War III and we're in it. Now, here we are 11 months into that war, and you listen to somebody like Blumenthal and somebody like Lindsey Graham, Admiral Kirby saying Joe Biden just sent 20,000 more troops to Europe. There are 100,000 American troops at the ready. There are 40,000 in Poland training with 90,000 Polish troops. They're 10 miles from the Polish-Ukrainian border. And the diplomats in the State Department are tweaking Putin, trying to get under his skin. You were right. It is the beginning of World War III, and that's what the establishment wants, because they somehow, in their crazy way of thinking, think they can force Putin from office. Why force Putin from office? Russia is a country of great economic prosperity. That's all he's interested in, and he doesn't want NATO weapons creeping at his doorstep because NATO can't be trusted.
You know, again, as I said, World War III has begun, and one of our top trends for 2023 is Middle East meltdown. That the United States and Israel are ramping up. They're doing major drills as to attack Iran. And we saw, this is a fact from the Jerusalem Post, their language, that Israel, it had drone strike this past week on a Iranian military installation. Could you imagine if Iran sent a drone strike on an Israeli military installation? Oh my God, how terrible.
It's
Israel could do anything they want.
Exceptionalism again. The Israelis have the same view of the moral righteousness of their foreign policy. It's right just because we do it.
Yeah.
As the American establishment does. It's the same exceptionalism argument. First thing, Netanyahu is back in power. This is his 5th time as prime minister. He was in for a week when he sent the Israeli army into the Palestinian camps to start killing.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, if there is a military conflict between Iran, the United States, between Israel and the United States versus Iran, oil prices are going to skyrocket to above $130 a barrel.
Well, Russia will back Iran. Russia threatened the Israelis because the drone that the Israelis sent, which they've denied, apparently struck at a drone factory which manufactures drones that Russia buys from Iran.
Right. So this is all connected.
Yes, it
is. Ukraine war, it's all connected. The United States is involved in this.
Yes.
So I'm saying if we don't unite for peace, we're going to die in war. And the people better do something. You better do something. Any way you want to do it, you better do something. And one of the ways you could do it is by donating to Occupy Peace, occupypeace.com, and do something in your community. Speak out, stand up, be a true American patriot.
And take on the big government, the uniparty, with its Republican wing and its Democrat wing in Washington, D.C. It needs another party to challenge their globalist, imperialist, war lusting for mentality that both the Republicans and the Democrats embrace.
And I agree with you 100%. And that's why in 2024, the ticket that I want to see is RFK Jr. for president and Judge Andrew Napolitano for vice president. So everybody remember, that's what we're pushing for. That's what we want. And we need you to help. And any ideas, suggestions, or, put your money where your mouth is, let us know. Judge, thanks for being on, and we'll see you next week.
All the best, Gerald.